Hey everybody, wanted to let you know that my new book, Hometown Titan, Build a Local Business That Dominates Your Market, is now available on Amazon and has already hit the bestseller lists. We're going to be coming out with Audible soon and hoping to get it into some bookstores, but it would mean the world to me if you went out and got your copy here today, because in this book, I tell never before told stories on my 12 plus year journey in the moving industry. So go get your copy today, Hometown Titan, Build a Local Business That Dominates Your Market, and tighten up.
So if I see something like a home decor object, and I fall in love with it, it doesn't matter if I have a place for it in my home. I buy it because I know I can make it work. So when I see talent, but I don't have an open position, that doesn't bother me. I will bring them in because I know I can find it. It's so much harder to find a quality person than it is it's easy to train somebody. So when you see that needle in a haystack, then we bring them on board. Even if we don't have an open position specifically for them at a time, we'll make something. I don't look at us as a sales business. we are a relationship company, and our whole goal is to build a relationship with somebody. And I tell customers this to their face. I don't care if you buy or sell from me. I really don't. My only goal is I earn your trust. If I earn your trust, you will feel compelled to share me with your friends and family when it's time to move. Houses sell themselves. I need to build trust so that when the opportunity is right, you will think of us.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. I'm your host, Wade Sweikel, owner of Two College Brothers here in Tampa, Florida, as well as locations in Gainesville, San Antonio, and the co-founder of the Titan Retreats. And today's guest was actually a speaker at our most recent Hometown Titan Retreat, somebody that I've been doing business with and looked up to and respected for a very long time. Actually, not necessarily in the moving industry, but close in the real estate industry. I've known Betsy Pepine, today's guest, for years up in Gainesville. In fact, she actually won the Best Large Business Award around the same time we won the Best Small Business Award in Gainesville. But Betsy, she's the author of a book called Breaking Boxes, recently published. Check that out. I've listened to it on Audible and highly recommend it. Her company is Pepine Realty, which is an Inc. 5000 fastest growing company. Wall Street Journal, one of the largest teams in the country for 3 years. She's endorsed by Barbara Corcoran. I think used to be endorsed by Sean Hannity. I'm not sure if he's still endorsing, but definitely some big names there. Voted best companies to work for from Grow Florida. And they have sold over $1 billion in real estate over the years in Gainesville, Florida, which if you know about Gainesville, Florida, it's only a market of between about 100 and 200,000 people. It's built around the University of Florida. Betsy is an MBA. You went to Duke and is at the Wharton School of Business as well. So highly educated, leads an amazing real estate team in Gainesville. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about a lot of the commonalities that movers have with people in real estate, with top producing agents and brokers, since we all have similar clientele. And Betsy's also an avid pickleball player like myself. So Betsy, thank you for coming on to the podcast. And you delivered an awesome talk at the Hometown Titan Retreat. I got feedback from several people that it was one of their favorite talks. So thank you for coming down to doing that. But for the listeners, I gave you a little high level intro, but if you don't mind kind of sharing your story on what your path has looked like in actually becoming a hometown Titan in Gainesville over the last, several years, over a decade, 2 decades. How long have you been doing this? Yeah, take me through your journey.
So, well, thank you, Wade, for having me. I got into real estate late, as a lot of us do in the industry. Real estate is a career that is often a second or third career for people. And so I had a whole nother career in the pharmaceutical industry and did not even get into real estate until I was 37, which I don't even know. Wade, you're probably not even 37 yet.
I'll be 35 in July.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I've been in the real estate industry for 20 years. So, but I started out just really dabbling my feet, thinking, oh, if I like it, I'll stay in. If I gave myself 2 years, I was a single mom with 2 young children at the time. So I gave myself 2 years. I had a little bit of a nest egg that I could afford to do that. If I didn't sell anything, I could at least put food on the table. But really found that I loved it. I knew I would like it, but I didn't really appreciate how much I truly loved what we do. And so after about 4 years, I got my broker license and then started a brokerage. And then once the brokerage was established, then started looking at ancillary businesses. And so decided to open up title in our town. And so we have a title company. I opened up a Motto mortgage franchise and also got my LO license to originate loans for our borrowers. Then opened up a property management company for some of our owners that didn't want to sell, but wanted to rent, and some of our investors who wanted to buy. And then opened up a real estate school, really as a recruiting tool. It's a great way for us to recruit agents into the industry. And then the last thing we added was a nonprofit, which I'm very passionate about. And it's called Pepine Gives. And it's a nonprofit that serves the segment of our population that will never use our services through the front door. We assist, and we have a partnership with Habitat for Humanity, and we build homes for cost-burdened families.
Wow, I love that.
That's in a nutshell.
Yeah, you've got a lot of projects going on, and obviously, you come from a great schools. Duke and Wharton. Those are like some of the best in the country. How has your education helped you in real estate? Because I get all the time, like, oh, you went to college and you own a moving company. You got a master's degree and you own a moving company. Like, I feel like real estate's similar in that it's a low barrier to entry, but it's a high barrier to success.
Yes.
Has the education helped you, or have you kind of just had to learn from the school of hard knocks?
It's funny because I remember when I told my parents, who funded my education, and I'm so grateful for that, when I told them I was going to switch careers and become a realtor, they thought I was kidding because you need a GED and pass a class online. And I know they were thinking, what did we spend our money on? No, I think it absolutely helped me because, well, one, the business skills. I have an economics degree from Duke, and so it just helped the business classes there. I took a lot of classes at Fuqua, which is their business school, classes in marketing and advertising, which is what I'm passionate about. So that helped me immensely. And then when I got my MBA, I did have a concentration in marketing, and that really helped me in real estate. But in addition, one of the classes I could take for credit was to rehab homes in West Philadelphia. And so we would go in and gut these row homes, rebuild them with donated supplies, and then sell them to cost-burdened families. And that experience and seeing the impact that a house makes on a family led me into real estate as a second career. So, indirectly by taking that class, it really did impact my life, because had I not seen that firsthand, I don't know that I would be in real estate today.
This show is powered by Hey Lou's virtual assistant team. They've revolutionized how we run our business and can handle anything from inbox management to social media, research, and yes, even production of this podcast. Want to reclaim more than 20 hours a week in your business so that you can focus on the things that really move the needle? Use our link in the description to get started with your own dedicated VA with Hey Lou. And thanks to Hey Lou for powering the Grow Your Moving Company podcast.
Wow. And I can tell you've definitely got, a lot of empathy, and, you can see that through Pepine Gives. Tell me, like, what inspired you to start a nonprofit for people that will likely never actually be using your real estate services? I mean, what is that, going back to those roots where you were doing that work, previously, mm-hmm. What was your motivation for that? And has it helped your business in any way, by basically going into the nonprofit sector as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Well, we did it because, one, I've always had a servant heart. I think it was modeled for me in my childhood, but like we always look for mentors and people to help us, we also have the obligation to look back and see who we can pull up. And so that was always my mindset. Before we had Pepine Gives, one of our core values was service. And we were doing service all over the North Florida region. And it was very sporadic. It was very, there was no connection. It was just, we do something here. We give money here. We spend some time here. It was all over the board. And when we sat down as a team at the end of one year, we said, you know what, we really want to centralize our giving, whether it's monetarily or with our labor and resources, into one area, because the whole purpose of service is to make an impact. And we actually changed the core value in our company officially from service to impact. And so when impact became our core value, we then started the nonprofit and decided what better way to serve than to serve those who need the services we're already providing, but just can't afford it. And so it was just a very symbiotic conclusion. And so that's how that came to be. Has it helped our business? I don't know. We don't, it definitely indirectly helps our business because we have people that tell us they use us because of all of the work we do in the community. They don't specifically mention Pepine Gives or our relationship with Habitat, but they just know us to be a company that really does care about and give back to the community that we live in. So I think it indirectly helps us that way. But that's just icing on the cake. I mean, for me, it's more about providing a venue for agents, staff, and the community to come volunteer with us and to give back with us. So that to me is the biggest community. It's a community builder within our company as well as with our customers. We invite everybody to join us. So that to me is the biggest benefit.
No, I love that. And I think, as entrepreneurs, we might start out in business or working a job for the money, but you reach a certain point where the most successful entrepreneurs I've found seem to do it for the fulfillment and to be able to make a difference. And, once you have enough money to be comfortable, it goes beyond that. And that's what I feel like motivates a lot of people that have achieved extremely high levels of success to keep going, even though they might, have done well enough to have the life of their dreams and support future generations. But I think that fulfillment seems like what you're finding not only in your real estate practice that pays the bills, but Pepine Gives. And I always like to say too, like you should spend 30% of your time getting mentorship from people above you, 30% of your time pushing somebody who's on your level to get to that next level, and then 30% helping people below you and pulling them up, because there's that karma, just that giver's gain mentality that comes from helping pull people up. And then 10% of your time, to yourself, reflecting. And at least that's what I believe personally. But one thing we've struggled with in my moving company is getting our team to participate in things like that, nonprofit activities or volunteer work that they're not getting paid for. And I can imagine that's especially challenging with real estate agents who are typically 1099 contractors. How do you find people or get the people that you have to participate in these community initiatives that may not necessarily, translate into a paycheck for their time, at least in that moment? So
we're very intentional about who we hire. And so we discuss each of our core values and what it means and what the expectation is. It's not mandatory that they participate, but we do make sure up front that they understand what our culture is. So I do feel like that helps. We don't hand people checks to volunteer with us, but anything during the work week, staff gets paid regularly. They don't have to clock out. So they all love to get out of the office to go do work for us with the nonprofit, like to go help build a house, and they don't have to come into work that day. They gladly take that. So they are getting paid their normal wage. We don't make them clock out. The agents, I think they do see a benefit because we promote it, but they can promote themselves too on these job sites and what the work that they're doing in the community, and it can help them directly. So I think understanding that, that's not too big of a problem. we also try to, with our fundraising events, ask, what are you interested in? So we do a golf tournament. I don't play golf, but we do a golf tournament because others do. We do a pickleball tournament. I do play pickleball. But, so maybe in terms of overcoming that is seeking out. And before, I have to say, let me just back up. Before we had the nonprofit and funneled all of our focus in this, we always asked every month, what are you passionate about? Tell us what you want to do. And so we did. We painted horse stalls for the retirement home for horses. We've served the homeless numerous meals. We've done pet rescue. We want, and it's so great because we've done, highway pickup, the litter on the highway. So if you ask them what they want, usually people have a passion that they are interested in, and then you coordinate the activity around what they chose. And then I think you do definitely get more, participation.
Interesting. You mentioned you had a real estate school, and that played a role in recruiting. Yeah. You've obviously got amazing team members, and being known as one of the best companies to work for, and just the growth that you've experienced, the awards that you've won. What is your recruiting and hiring philosophy? Are you constantly looking for new agents, or is it just waiting for the right person to come along, or kind of a combination of both? Is there like an organized approach to building your team?
Yeah, I am all about, it's kind of like, I also like to decorate. So if I see something like a home decor object, and I fall in love with it, it doesn't matter if I have a place for it in my home. I buy it because I know I can make it work. So when I see talent, but I don't have an open position, that doesn't bother me. I will bring them in because I know I can find it. It's so much harder to find a quality person than it is it's easy to train somebody. So when you see that needle in a haystack, then we bring them on board. Even if we don't have an open position specifically for them at a time, we'll make something. But in general, yeah, we have, we always have ads running. We are always looking, out for people in our industry, in our community that we have a great connection with, we had a great transaction with. They seem like they would fit our culture. That's our biggest thing is, will they fit our culture and align with our values? We offer incentives for our own employees to bring us people because I think like attracts like. So if you've got great agents, they know great people, and that has brought in people. I would say, oddly, a significant percentage of our people come from our clients. They turn into agents because they like the experience so much. They decide they want to become an agent. So that's been a great source for us. The school has been a great source for us. And then we buy lists, and I don't know in the moving industry what you have, but we can buy lists for, everybody's production. We know all of that and the likelihood to move, brokerages based on when they last moved, et cetera. But then we can also buy lists from the state that tell us who is sitting for the state exam. So they're about to get licensed. And that's a great way to recruit as well. So those are all different things that we do.
Interesting. No, and I think that's really, the key to building a successful team and to achieving growth. When I talk to our operations managers, especially as we are heading into the summertime, I tell them, we can only take on as much work as we have good people to take on. Mm-hmm. Trucks, we can go rent a truck, equipment, we can go buy equipment. But our capacity, and I hate to say this like this, but like our inventory is people that have families, that have their own struggles and things going on and their own needs. And we need to be able to nurture those people, to give them what they need to succeed, but to find them at the same time. And it's, it can be a challenge, I think, for anybody in business, but especially in a service business or something like with real estate where they have to test in and become qualified, because there's a lot of shady people in real estate, mm-hmm. just like there are in moving. Yeah. I've been dealing with, an issue with the home that I purchased in St. Petersburg for 2 years now, because the listing agent did not disclose that the HOA was in an arbitration with the home builder. And it resulted in a lot of mold and construction defects that she told told the sellers to cover up. So I'm dealing firsthand with like what the shady side of the real estate business can be in. Is there like a vetting process that you put people through that join your team? I know with moving, we can background check them, drug test them. Might not be as simple though.
We do background checks.
Okay.
And then to keep your license, I mean, the FREC, regulates that too. So the fact that you have an active license already means that you don't have infractions like criminal and things like that. So that's also a nice thing once we know that they're licensed. I mean, that's really about it. We check references. Yeah, but we do, any hire is a 90-day trial. It's, they're kind of on a probationary period. And we say you're testing us and we're testing you. It's two ways, but we want to make sure it's a good fit.
Yeah. Well, so obviously your name is on the brokerage, Pepine Realty. And I'm sure, that carries a lot of responsibility with the people that are working with you. What kind of training or ongoing education or systems, processes do you use in your business to ensure that the people that you bring on are living up to the brand and your personal name?
We have a full-time trainer who trains the agents. And then what supports that is there's two different, in our industry, there's two big companies that provide training for real estate agents. And so we have subscriptions to that, which helps the trainer train the agents. So we have that. And then we pay for, $1,000 a month, $1,000 a year per agent for them to, we really encourage them to get outside training. So we want them to go away in another market, get a designation, get a license, a different, get something else different in a different market and bring it back and share what they've learned, in that experience. And so they get to do that once a year. Everybody gets $1,000 to do that. That really helps them see because so many things are so localized, but when you get outside your market, everybody shares their ideas and they come back with some great ideas. So we highly encourage that, which helps keep them not top of mind, but in the forefront of the industry.
Sure. Yeah. I believe anytime I travel, I always try to find, who are the local moving companies in this market, and I try to reach out to them and connect and go visit, because people that, are right next door might be either just stuck in their ways or they don't want to share their insights. But what I've found, especially through doing this podcast, I mean, it's really why this podcast started, was to reach out to other successful moving company owners in other parts of the country and model their success, and just pick their brain on what they were doing somewhere else. But I also like to do that with different industries, which, I love reading real estate books and talking to people in real estate and, even plumbing or other home services. Tommy, who spoke at our event, he was in garage doors. And I feel like if you have the intelligence and just the ability or desire, I should say, to read between the lines with how other business practices work, because sometimes, they say like they did that monkey study where they like sprayed a bunch of monkeys with a hose and then they removed all the monkeys. And then like when I don't know, I'm going to butcher this, but there's like a study that shows that these monkeys kept doing things the exact same way. And there was no reason why they kept doing things the exact same way, because the first round of monkeys got punished for doing it. And not to say like we're all monkeys, but I guess at the end of the day, we all are related to them. But basically, when you can step outside of the box, read between the lines, talk with people in other industries, talk with people in your industry in other parts of the country, or even go to other countries. I've learned a lot of unique business ideas just from traveling to other countries. I feel like somebody should write a book about that. Maybe one day I will if I have time to travel to enough places. But like, there's so many interesting ways people do business, and it's very, solving the same problem, but taking a different approach in different cultures and different industries. And I love that you incentivize your team to do that, because I think there's a ton of value in that. Switching gears a little bit. So you've done over $1.5 billion in sales in a relatively small market, at least compared to a metropolitan area like Tampa or Miami or Orlando or Chicago, New York, whatever. Gainesville's only a couple 100,000 people at most. What has been your best strategy in getting that much business and squeezing so much juice out of a market of that size? Is there like a specific marketing tactic that you're willing to share, or just an overall strategy that has allowed you to do that much volume?
I think, well, the overall philosophy is always been like, I don't look at us as a sales business. We are a relationship company, and our whole goal is to build a relationship with somebody. And I tell customers this to their face. I don't care if you buy or sell from me. I really don't. My only goal is I earn your trust. If I earn your trust, you will feel compelled to share me with your friends and family when it's time to move. Houses sell themselves. I need to build trust so that when the opportunity is right, you will think of us. So that's the approach that we take. And I do think that has served us, because we're not a fly by night. I was raised in this community. So I think it does help when you have already built a name of integrity in your community before you even start your business. So I think that helps. But we were very strong on that. So I think that, and from the get-go, we've been because we're a relationship-based business, we don't work only by referral, but a lot of our business comes from referral and people we know. And so, and those tend to be higher dollar leads. They are more loyal to you versus the internet leads that you can buy that are more, fly by night. They may show up, they may not. They don't know you. There's not a relationship there. Price points are usually lower. So I think if you're working with your sphere and you cultivate your sphere, your friends, your family, the people that you interact with, I think that really helps your growth. And that's what we did from the get-go.
I want to take a second and tell you all about Tighten Up Training. As a co-founder, we've spent months and months and months and a lot of money pooling together resources from some of the best moving companies in the world. And we're excited to bring this to an online platform available to any mover to use at an affordable price. Tighten Up Training has over 200 videos, including mover training, your highest turnover position, so that you can reduce claims, streamline operations, give your team the tools to perform at the highest level of service that generate repeat and referral business and allow you to charge higher prices, as well as sales training, marketing training, business development, leadership. We're adding more content as we speak. We've got legal training in there. We've even got door-to-door training for the moving industry, thanks to Lenny Gray at the Moving Titan Retreat. We've seen a massive explosion of moving companies jumping on to Tighten Up Training since the last retreat, and people are loving it. And when you sign up and mention this podcast, we're going to give you a free 6-week onboarding course in order to learn how to hold your team accountable and get the entire team on the platform so that you can have the best off-season and summer season that you've ever had. Ideally, the best 2025 that you've ever had. So go to tightenuptraining.com, schedule your free demo today, and look forward to tightening up.
Yeah, I always say that's like the number one marketing strategy, is just to provide that consistent 5-star raving fan experience, because every client that you serve serves to multiply into additional clients. Like, create an experience so good consistently that people want to go tell their friends, family, coworkers, colleagues about your services, and they're excited to do it. Everybody loves to share something that they discovered that was really amazing. I just had an amazing plumbing experience. I want to tell everybody, and they don't even have to ask. I'm just going to tell them about these people. And that's ultimately, I think, what the best way to do it as business owners, because, a lot of companies, and we see this in real estate, we see this in moving, they put up billboards, run commercials, they buy all the leads, and then they provide a bad service, or it's just like a cookie cutter service. There's no like relationship. It's just a transaction, and it doesn't serve to multiply. So they have to spend all this money getting a new lead to convert to a new customer for a one-time experience, where our clientele, they move every 3 to 7 years on average. Sometimes they don't move for 20 or 30 years. Sometimes they move every year. You never really know. But that repeat business and then that referral business in an industry where we have a lot of competition, and you have especially a lot of competition, in real estate, because there's, I know, what is there, about 1,500 or more realtors in the Gainesville area, and you're trying to stand out and offer a unique selling point beyond what they're also trying to do. Do you have any other unique selling points? Of course, you've been in business so long and you've got such a good reputation. But when somebody, say, just moves to the area, has no idea your reputation, your brand, what's your selling point to, I know you don't like to use the word sales, but how do you get that business? How would you get that listing if they had no idea what, your reputation and brand were?
So we do if they don't know us, we do educate them. We show them, we've got over 1,500 5-star reviews or 4.9 star reviews on Google. We always show the data, how many homes we've sold in their community, and it's usually in the double digits, which is always impressive. So we do use kind of like social proof. But we also, one of the things that we do differently is we offer 3 different programs. So most people, when you go to list a house, there's just one. You list your house at market value and you hope it sells. We go in with 3 different options. We have an instant offer option where we will buy your house today. Well, tomorrow. And we usually anywhere from 7 days to as long as they need out in terms of closing. So it's a very specific niche where you value convenience over price, but it does fill a need for a lot of people who are either elderly, they don't want to get their homes ready, they don't want to make repairs, they don't want to deal with the hassle of showing the home, or they don't know exactly what date they need to move out. Maybe they're building and the builder's got a delay, or they need to get out fast for some reason, or for some reason, maybe they got a really nasty divorce, they just want to get rid of this as quickly as possible. So we have the instant offer program. We also have the guaranteed sale program, which is a little bit of a hybrid between the instant offer and a traditional sale. But it's when after 3 months of trying to sell your house the traditional route, we will buy it from you. And then we have the normal one, which is a traditional sale. So most brokerages just go in with one option, and we go in with 3. So that's one of the ways that we differentiate ourselves. We also are one-stop shopping. You're not only going to use us to list, we also have an in-house title company. And why that's important to you is then we control the transaction. We just walk down the hall and ask, how's title going and what is holding up the closing. We don't have to wait for someone to call us back. Same with the buyer side. We've got the lenders in-house. So having the one-stop shop is also really helpful when you're trying to sell your value to customers.
Yeah, totally. Are there any vendors that you work with that you've found ways to where they can help you grow your business? Like, I know when we worked together, I think we were contributing to some leads. One program that we've started doing down here is we'll deliver boxes to agents' listing appointments, or let them come pick them up and leave them behind at listing appointments, so that they can stand out, by giving them something that they'll need to pack if they're going to be selling their house soon, and they're going to sell their house soon if they hire you. That's the thought process behind that, as a way to help the agent stand out a little bit, and then hopefully attract some business on our side as well. But what vendors, whether it's home inspectors, mortgage, I guess you have mortgage, but, any of the other services that you need, is there anybody that's doing anything that kind of stands out as a way that's helping you grow the most?
I love that. No. I wish I could say that. We started offering, so we have a pool of service providers that are our preferred service providers. And so we're starting a mastermind with them, because a lot of these home service companies, they're not used to being in a mastermind group with other people who own their businesses, and being able to provide that kind of resource for them is very attractive. And we're helping one of our service providers. We're basically doing the whole EOS onboarding for them and showing them how to use EOS as a platform to run their business on. So I feel like we're providing them, ways, but I haven't really looked at it the other way. Yeah. Other than just providing us good service and showing up and being available. I mean, one of the things with moving companies, which has really stood out, is it doesn't happen often, but it's critical. You go to you go to a walkthrough, which is usually the morning of the closing, and there's stuff still in the house. Like the other day, it was a piano, a desk that looked like it weighed 100 pounds, and a queen size sofa. And I called the listing agent. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, oh, the sellers just want to keep it there. I'm like, the buyers don't want this. This needs to be out. So I called our moving company. They came right away, hauled it off before closing. No questions asked. Nice. And I said, charge me. And they would not charge me. But I didn't really, it was just that they were available and could respond so quickly because that closing was going to be delayed if I couldn't get that stuff out. So that's very valuable to me as an agent, just the responsiveness on something very quick and unexpected.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I think in moving, a lot of us talk about, oh yeah, we're booked out 3 weeks. You don't hear of like a lot of last minute like on-call services. And I think that's a good way to distinguish yourself. I was doing a podcast with a moving company owner in Phoenix. I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago. And he is running a really interesting program where he's offering a free month of storage, for like one vault for free. And he calls it a declutter program. So when the buyer is listing the home with an agent and he pitches this to agents, he basically says, you're going to need to clean some things up around the home so that it's presentable for the showings that we'll have to do. We'll give you a free month of storage for, up to 1,000 pounds worth of furniture, and they go and pick it up. And whether or not they get a move out of that, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but it helps to build that relationship and provide that value add service. And I think that's something that I know I am, and a lot of our listeners are always looking for ways to help the what's in it for me, for the people that were asking referrals for. I remember when you and I first sat down and met for the first time, probably 10 or more years ago, you said you were working with another moving company, but they had never once sent you a referral. Yeah. And you said, if you want me to refer you, refer me. I was like, well, that seems like it makes sense. Yeah. But it's tough for movers to refer agents because we usually come in after the fact. And, we try to find things, listing, on our website blogs where people might be researching an area to move. We can showcase, agents that we, preferred agents and things like that. But, it can be difficult. So that's, I'm always looking for ideas that can help us give you something, that may not necessarily be a direct referral, but it saves a closing or it helps to sell a house faster or gets you more leads or anything like that. So, but I like that, the last minute on-call specialist.
Something I had thought about and we looked into, but it didn't go anywhere is because you see pods, creep up on your neighbor's yard. So that house is going to be sold. And so we tried to contact the pod companies and create a relationship because I want their names, right? Because sometimes they do that before they call an agent. But I haven't been successful in creating a relationship. The POD, like the main one is all centralized in another state and they were not interested in a relationship with me. But it seems like, do you ever work with those? Like who's moving the stuff into the pod? Is it someone doing that or couldn't you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. We provide the labor to do that 100%. Pods is actually based down here in St. Pete, Clearwater area. Their headquarters is down here, but there's several mobile storage companies. Red Rover is another one. That's, I think, based in Orlando. I think there's mobile Go Minis, but I also know some moving company owners that have started their own pots. It's fairly expensive to start up, but there's a lot of residual income, after the course of even just a year. I think, a lot of them can make their money back, but you need to buy the right kind of truck to transport those, and you need to buy the actual units, and you need the space, most importantly. But as a realtor, you could probably help find space for things like that. The lead sharing idea is great. And I feel like there's ways that we probably would get leads. Maybe it's moving somebody into town for they're renting in the area, and we know they're going to be renting. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we'll get jobs coming in from out of state to an area, and they need to get a feel for the area for a period of time, and they store their stuff and stay in an Airbnb for a couple months. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's some potential there. I mean, there could be people listening to this podcast right now that are moving somebody in that exact situation to Gainesville or to somewhere in North Central Florida. So always looking at those ways. And I always love discussing different ideas to be able to help each other, because I think every relationship should be mutually beneficial. Mm-hmm. What about finding new prospects? So, of course, after a period of time in business, you get that repeat and referral. But there's also moving companies or real estate companies that'll just be starting out, and they need to go and get their first big job or their first, year's worth of work. Our San Antonio location is, it's only about a year old now, and we're still trying to get the name out and build the clientele and get people to know who we are and to hire us so that we can start generating that repeat and referral business. But what have you found works best for this? And I asked a similar question at the retreat, and I think you said you had some VAs essentially cold calling residents. But tell me a little bit more about how that process works, or any other ideas to find new business.
So they do circle dialing around any new active listing. It doesn't have to be ours, but they'll do circle 100, the 100 closest homes with any new listing in our market, asking who do they know that might need to buy or sell a home. One of them calls expireds and past expireds. You can buy a past expireds list. Like past expireds, meaning they expired a year or two ago, but never sold. So they may still be open to moving. FSBOs would be a great one for you guys. I mean, just because they're moving. They just don't have a realtor. Try to think of what else. We do buy leads, which I don't really like. The cost of leads is shot up, and they're not as loyal, but we do buy leads. And I don't know if you can buy leads, or at least you buy them through your relationships with your agents. Yeah,
we can. They book at a very low percentage, but there's countless lead providers that specialize in moving companies. But we don't really do it much. It's just, they're usually looking for the cheapest price, and they're getting called from 10 different companies because they're also buying the lead. So it's, depending on the source, some are better than others, but, that's definitely an option. I was really interested in the VAs that you have, just basically cold calling anybody, asking if they or somebody that they know might need a realtor, might be thinking about buying or selling their home. Are you getting those lists from is there a database? Because we don't have phone books anymore. How are you finding?
No, we get it through, I think what we're using now is Vulcan 7, which is a dialer in the data. There's a couple of companies out there, and I don't know if it's just specific to the real estate industry, or not. I wouldn't think it is. And you just buy a subscription, and it loads in all of the data from the public websites. So you can get phone numbers. I don't know if we can get email, but definitely phone numbers. Yeah. Nice. And they screen it through the do not call registry.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Something, I was in a mastermind the other month, and a woman there, she said half her business, it just reminded me of the conversation we were just having about the moving boxes. So she buys the moving boxes for herself, and she brands them to herself. And she puts ads on Facebook Marketplace for free moving boxes. And she says half her business comes from that, because people look at that before they use a realtor. But my guess is they would also need a moving company. So I don't know if you advertise or do that, but the first 5 or the first, I don't know how many, I think it was the first 5 are free. And she said that's just been a huge source for her.
Most of you have heard me talk about Moversville and the power of their email marketing service that has helped us increase leads by over 112% over the last year. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services and lists like insurance providers, softwares, equipment suppliers, marketing sources, and much, much more. The best part? This resource is free. Go check out Moversville Connect today by going to moversville.com and clicking Connect. That's moversville.com and click Connect and discover the world of Moversville beyond email.
You know, I've heard of other companies that do that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, you know, I monitor the Facebook groups. There's a program that maybe this would be beneficial to you. I know you've got Gainesville Word of Mouth. I'm sure there's some other ones. But there's a program called Devi. It's DEVI. And you basically connect it to your Facebook and you join all the groups first. And then you connect it to your Facebook and you check off the groups that you wanted to monitor for keywords. So if somebody's posting in one of those groups, I need a mover, or I need, does anybody have any leftover moving boxes? So we have mover, moving boxes, things like that, that it'll, basically use AI and scrape those groups on like every 30 minutes. And I'll get an email. You have the option to get a text. I personally don't want my phone getting texts every 30 minutes, but my assistant monitors that and she'll go in there and comment, message the person. And I was actually just messaging somebody today and they had made a post about looking for boxes. And I said, we've got free ones, free used boxes at our warehouse, but we also sell new ones. But I have heard of other moving companies doing that. And it was a while ago that I heard that a company was getting some success with that. That would definitely be worth retrying though with the Facebook Marketplace free box campaign. I like that. Cool.
And then, I don't know if you do co-market with agents, but getting on their farming, anything they farm, making sure your ad is on their farming materials. I mean, I think that would help and getting more cross-promoting in the listings. So mortgage people, and I don't know if you have relationships with mortgage companies, but mortgage people have a rate sheet that they will put inside the houses of their agents that work with them closely. It would be great for you to also be inside the house because buyers are coming through the house and they don't have their mover yet.
Yeah, I love cross promoting and just co-branding, co-ops where you split the cost of something and, maybe it's a TV commercial and you're both in it or something like that. TV can get expensive, but, various different things, direct mail. Jennifer Thayer, who is also one of the speakers at the Hometown Time Retreat, had a really good idea that we're currently talking about a cross promotion for rain jackets for the rainy season coming up and delivering these rain jackets. She focuses mostly on downtown St. Pete and a lot of the high-rise condos and penthouses and stuff there. So she wants to go co-branded on rain jackets, split the cost, and then deliver them to the communities there for the residents and the maintenance people and everybody that lives there, because they're going to be needing them if they're going outside in the summertime in Florida. So,
nice.
Yeah. So a lot of different things that can be done with cross promotions for sure. Speaking of cross promotions, so you've got the endorsement with Barbara Corcoran. I know you worked with Sean Hannity. I don't know if you still work with him.
We did until about a month ago. We did that through the election and then we just decided to pull it. And we still have Glenn Beck and Bob Rose.
Oh, cool. Nice. Well, first of all, how did you make those connections with some of those big name celebrities, personalities? We did a little bit with Bob Rose when I was in Gainesville. And we do something with another morning show here in Tampa that's done very well. What's been your experience with the endorsements? Does that bring a lot of business and how did you make those connections? I'm just curious to hear what that whole experience is like.
Yeah. I think it definitely builds credibility. So I think it's wonderful, especially when you're new and you don't have the years under you or the sales under you. I think it absolutely adds credibility. We definitely get people who call us because they listened to Bob Rose and heard us on Bob Rose, or they think I was on Shark Tank. I was not on Shark Tank, but they think I was on Shark Tank. So how to get those. Everyone was different. So, Dave Ramsey, I'm also, endorsed by Dave Ramsey.
Oh, nice. I love Dave Ramsey.
So Dave Ramsey one, I actually am a big believer in his system. I've always lived a debt-free life, but before he promotes it, but I was modeled that in my childhood and that's how I've always lived. But he has an excellent course on that financial piece. And so I was teaching that to my agents, and I also teach it to recently released prisoners. And I had heard he had a program and you had to apply and be interviewed. And so I did do that. And I liked that because some of these celebrities, honestly, as long as you're legitimate, you can get in. And the interview was quite intense. You had to demonstrate that you understood his principles and believed in them and how you espouse them, because he believes that the people he's referring to you, they're in one of the 7 baby steps that he promotes, and you have to understand it and know how to coach them. So that's how I got that one. Glenn Beck, I don't honestly know how I got that one. I think that was the same way. So my agent, I was buying my media through an agent up in New York, and he reached out to me years ago and asked if I wanted to have an endorsement with Barbara Corcoran. And I was like, oh my goodness, yes, because she had been a mentor from afar for so long. And I think, if I remember, I'm not positive, he also had connections with Glenn Beck. I'm not sure. I think that's how I got that one too. So that was through my agent up in New York.
Gotcha. That's interesting that you have an agent. We've been doing stuff on the radio for a while. We're actually getting ready to start working with the local ABC station, who is one of our sponsors at the event last month. We're going to be doing some targeted streaming ads and some of their digital stuff. But what prompted you to get an agent versus to work directly with one of the sales reps at, the stations? I mean, do you do that for all of your advertising or your local media?
All my television and radio.
Okay.
Yeah, just because I'm a big believer in, I'm sure you've read the book, Who Not How.
I actually haven't read that one.
Oh my gosh. You've got to read it.
Okay.
I'm not kidding you. It will change your life. Who Not How. By Ben Hardy. But I'm a big believer in that, Who Not How. And I knew nothing about, and still know nothing about, television and advertising buying. And so I wanted to find somebody who did. And so that's why I do that. And it's my understanding, and I honestly, it could not be true, but it's my understanding that agents, so you know how like when you have a travel agent nowadays, it doesn't cost you anything. It's those are being paid. What you're getting priced at is the same price you would go if you're doing it yourself. So the airline or the hotel is paying their fee. So it doesn't cost you anything for their service. So agency, I believe, and that's what I'm being told, is the same way. They charge, I think the going rate is about 15%, but the television stations are either pocketing that themselves or they're paying an agent. So I don't think it hurts you at all, because you'll get somebody who has better expertise, understands what the best day part is, can analyze the data for you, is unbiased. They're not trying to sell you more advertising. They're trying to make sure that whatever your budget is getting the most views and exposure. So it might be worth just looking into, to see if that's a way to purchase your stuff.
Interesting. So you don't pay anything to the agent. There's no retainer or monthly fee. They basically get compensated by for bringing them business. That's interesting. I never really realized how that worked.
But I mean, I'm an N of one, so I don't know if that's how I'm told it's worked, and that's how it's working for me. So maybe we just won't look at it.
Okay. I know. I remember I spoke with Bill Allen about it a few years ago. Obviously, he's a Gainesville lawyer. And for those of the listeners who don't know, and he does a ton of marketing. He's got buses and billboards and commercials. And I think what he did, and I don't know if this is still what he's doing, but he had set up his own agency because he could get like 20% discounted rates from the different providers. And maybe that was just because they didn't have to pay the agent 20%, or maybe they were paying that agency.
They are the agent.
Okay.
So yeah.
Interesting.
A guy, a friend of mine up in New Jersey, he is probably the largest broker in New Jersey with billboards, because Bill Allen is just all over with billboards in Ocala and Gainesville. He and Tampa might be a market for it. You can call the billboard companies and you can ask for, it's their like, I don't know if it's like their overruns, but it's basically whenever they have an opening, there's always gaps between their contracts. So you can get great billboards at a very reduced price. Just saying, just fill me in wherever, because billboards are quite expensive.
Sure.
And so you can so he's everywhere, but he never knows where he's going to be. He doesn't care, but they just use him as the filler for anything that's in those gaps. And, there's not a lot in Gainesville to do that, but in Tampa, I would imagine that might be something that you could look into.
Yeah. And I think TV and radio stations do that too. I was talking to, actually my real estate attorney over this whole arbitration debacle. And he was telling me that, he had done very well just asking for the leftover inventory. He's like, sometimes it'll run at 4 a.m. But it's like $5 a spot compared to like $150 or $500 a spot if you run it right at the evening news at 6 p.m., and you intentionally set it there. But he's like, sometimes they'll throw one of those spots in too. So that's interesting.
Wait, the other thing with the agency is like, they know the data. In fact, we just had a call last week about my spend, and they want me to move pretty much all of my normal television spend to the streaming platforms, because we look at the number of people watching television when it's actually aired versus the number that are watching it at their convenience is astronomically, it's people are watching at their own convenience. And so maybe you want to look into that too, if you're not, looking into that, like iHeartRadio.
Yeah. Well, so we're working with the local ABC station. It's owned by Scripps, and it's got they have a program called Octane or something like that. And it's to target streaming. And what they can actually do with it now is target MLS listings, and the IP addresses of where those addresses are. So there's a couple things they can do. They can retarget from people that went to your website, and they can show them a streaming commercial. Like if there's commercials on streaming platforms, which is how a lot of people are watching TV these days. They can target the homes that are listed on the MLS with those addresses from a geo standpoint. And then they can, let's see, what was the other one? You can set demographics. Oh, if they're browsing things. So if they're going on like a realtor website, or if they're searching for moving related searches, just like how you'll see Facebook ads for shoes when you're looking for shoes, they'll start to see streaming ads for relevant services, depending on their online Wi-Fi browsing history. So we're just getting started with that. I don't have any results to report, but I think that there's a huge opportunity to get some really targeted marketing, especially like just to market in front of, people that have a home listed on the MLS. If we can get, if they're watching TV streaming and their house is for sale and we can show up, that's exactly where we want to be. So it might be something to look into for you as well. Yeah. I know a lot of them have their own, YouTube TV and Hulu and stuff. They might have their own specific, but there's an app for every entertainment channel these days with streaming. Well, cool. This is all great information. I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about breaking boxes. You've certainly broken a lot of boxes in your life. I enjoyed listening to the audio version narrated by you recently, and it was really interesting to get your perspective on just your life experience and how you've been, become the person that you are. But in your own words, tell the audience a little bit about, what is Breaking Boxes all about?
It's not a real estate book, which most people assume when I'm writing a book like you did. It's about what you did. I thought it would be when I opened it. I was like, interesting. It's not, but I was captivated by the stories. Each chapter was a story, and I thought that was really cool. I tried to write it outside the box as well. It's not your typical book, but it's basically a compilation of stories on when I felt most confined, and I call them boxes. I relate it. I compare it to if you've ever had the misfortune of purchasing a bed mattress on Amazon. It arrives at your door in a box, and you're like, how in the world could that king size mattress fit in that box, and you lug that box inside, you open up the box, and 2 days later, you've got this mattress that's expanded, right, to the size it was meant to be. And I felt like I was the compressed mattress in this box. And so those stories are about that, those times when I felt that either my family of origin, my gender, my industry, society, my religion, when I felt confined, by those expectations, opinions, and beliefs of others. And I think boxes can serve us at some points in our lives. And I think we can outgrow boxes. And I think I tended, and still sometimes do tend to overstay my welcome in them, and not recognize that they are no longer serving me, and that boxes by design, as you know, you're in the moving industry, are meant to be dismantled and thrown to the curb. So that is what the book is about.
Yeah. And I really liked how I felt like I really got to know you. Like, we've known each other for a while, but not on a super deep level until I listened to that book. And I was like, wow, like you've been through some stuff, but it's ultimately made you a stronger person. One of my favorite stories in it, though, was your grandparents' house, how you ended up back in that. Right here. Is that where you're in right now? Nice. That was such a cool story. If you don't mind me sharing, at least what I remember from it, you had very fond memories of your grandparents' house growing up. Mm-hmm. You started to get successful in real estate, and you bought this big, beautiful house, but it didn't feel like a home. And then when your grandparents decided to sell it, you sold it to somebody, mm-hmm. and that person, and you were like literally thinking about it, and that person randomly called you one day and mm-hmm. said that, hey, we want to sell the house again. We mm-hmm. want you to list it for us. And then you said, no, I'll just buy it. And you did. That was really cool. The synchronicity behind that.
It was crazy. And I mean, it just feels so home. It's a 1,600 square foot tiny house, in a very nondescript neighborhood. But I grew up next door. I grew up next door to my grandparents. I was here all the time. And, it's just such the right decision.
Well, it just goes to show, going back to what you were saying earlier about maintaining and building those relationships, because he called you all those years later.
It's true.
And it just fell, everything just lined up. And, the power of just, building relationships and doing the right thing for people, so that, never know how that's going to come back around. Well, Betsy, this has been great. Thank you so much for your time. And I took a lot of notes. I'm jotting stuff down here left and right, because a lot of good information here that I'm going to look into. Definitely check out that book, Who Not How, and definitely check out Betsy's book, Breaking Boxes, on Audible and Amazon and in bookstores too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then I'm also on all the social channels. We are going to be launching, I think it's this week, a course that's a companion to the book, which will be available on my website as well, which is just betsypepine.com.
Very nice. And that's also endorsed by Barbara Corcoran, which I thought was really cool. Yeah. Well, awesome. And if any of our audience is going to be moving any of their clients to the Gainesville area, or they want to get in touch with you, maybe they just want to, go deeper in anything that we talked about, what would be the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah. So either through my website, betsypepine.com, or email, which is betsy@betsypepine.com. Very easy.
Easy enough. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Betsy Pepine. This has been amazing. Betsy Pepine with Pepine Realty, the hometown Titan realty brokerage in Gainesville, Florida, where I lived for 10 years. And that's where it all started. So thank you for joining me here today. And we will be playing pickleball soon. In fact, our next moving Titan retreat, we are having a pickleball tournament. It's going to be at the Tradewinds Resort on St. Pete Beach. So there's 3 courts there. And so anybody listening, go sign up for the pickleball tournament. Maybe Betsy, you need to come down and make a celeb appearance and play as well. But let's definitely get a game together soon when one of us is in each other's neck of the woods, and maybe we'll see each other in a tournament sometime too. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. Until next time, I'll see y'all later.
Before we wrap up, I want to thank the team at Hey Lou for making this show happen. Hey Lou is a virtual assistant placement and management platform owned by a fellow moving Titan, and they provide the production for the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. But here's what's really amazing. Their virtual assistants do way more than just podcast support. From managing my crazy schedule to handling client communications, data and KPI analysis, and even sales support for a fraction of the cost of traditional salaried in-house employees, they're truly a secret weapon behind Two College Brothers' growth. Curious how a VA could transform your business? Check out our referral link in the show notes.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. If you would like to learn more about any of the sponsors listed on this show, want to apply for the next Moving Titan retreat, or interested in owning or working for Two College Brothers franchise, drop me a line at wade@twocollegebrothers.com. Moving out. Have a great day.